Ciao Juventini, I'm Alberto. I have all this morning's news surfacing around Juventus. We're going to take a look at the Prisma case yesterday. Juve's appeal was upheld by the Supreme Court. We're going to take a look at the details, what's next on deck, what this ultimately could mean for Juventus. And Max Allegri apparently preparing to make a switch for the four-man backline. Who is the key cog to make this switch for the manager? We'll take a look at those details. And Paul Pogba, do we have enough insurance on our roster currently to protect ourselves if his health issues continue? I've been asking that for about a couple weeks now. Well, we're starting to get reports on the two names that Juve sees as that insurance, and it might surprise everybody with one of those names. We're going to take a look at all that and much, much more right now. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is the AJC. Let's rock. We're going to kick things off with an interesting little nugget that dropped today, and I just want to get your thoughts if hypothetically this had went down. But the reports suggest that Suso was so close to joining Juventus 2 days before the end of this past Mercato as he is pushing to leave Sevilla, and it continues to push for a leave. It said that January window is probably when he's going to leave. Now, this would have been a big shock to us because none of the journalists had even touched on this, and a journalist might come out shortly now and say, no, there was no such contact from Juventus. But hypothetically, if it had gone down, what would you have thought of Juve pulling off that move? For me, I think there was a time where Suso would definitely be somebody, and there I remember a lot of the Juventini wanting Suso at one point in time, but right now is not the time for me personally, okay? So I would have said no on that one. Now, we get to Paul Pogba, the uncertainty with his health and whatnot, and who is seen as the key pieces in terms of Pogba insurance. Well, Miretti is being labeled as the player that can be that creative tool for Juventus out of the midfield. Now, what's interesting here is that you've got a guy like Rabiot and Locatelli. These guys are established and whatnot. So does that mean less minutes for Fagioli? Because you know Vlahovic is going to be up top, and you've got to get Chiesa in the lineup. That takes your two forwards away. Is Miretti going to be chewing into Fagioli's minutes despite the fact that Fagioli still hasn't started off on the right foot because he's still healing off from that collarbone injury, all right? So Fagioli's going to take advantage of this international break, get his fitness back, try to get back into game shape. But Miretti being listed immediately as this Pogba insurance type player. The other player is Yildiz, because he is being listed as a player with the skills and abilities to fill that role as well. So that's going to be very interesting. And it's interesting that the reports do not mention Fagioli, because I personally do believe he can also be one of those guys. For me, it would be Miretti and it would be Fagioli. And I said during the last match, all the great stuff that Miretti was doing in terms of finding himself positionally in the right spots to break the lines. I want to see Fagioli doing that for us, and I know he can do it because he did it for Cremonese. So this is going to be an interesting story to kind of follow, as again, we're still waiting for Pogba to get back to full health. Now, he has avoided injury in the last game against Empoli, which is great. Still has to take advantage of this international break and try to get back to better shape. He was at 70% going into that Empoli match, played a decent amount of minutes, again had an injury scare, so fingers crossed he can get closer, but he is got eyes on making an appearance against Lazio after the break as well. Now, the Prisma investigation. So yesterday, Juve's appeal was upheld by the Supreme Court, all right? So they were basically asked to rule on the territorial jurisdiction of the Turin Public Prosecutor Office, and they claimed incompetence on that territorial jurisdiction from the Turin Public Prosecutor's Office for a number of reasons we've all highlighted and you guys are very familiar with, and now it is being moved to Rome. They called for immediate transfer of all files, documents associated with this case to be moved to Rome. Juve's appeal was in fact this. This is normal proceedings. Juve appealed for a move to Milan, but it's going to Rome and they will look at everything. Ultimately, what could this mean for Juventus? Are we going to be reinstated in Champions League? Are we going to get... No, I expect the same. This is more for the criminal cases involved and whatnot, and those members involved, about 12 of them, Agnelli being one. What I think happens at the end is much of the same from 2006, sadly, okay? I believe they're all going to get cleared. I believe it's all going to get fine. It's going to become a wash and whatnot, but the sporting penalties will stand. despite that. And Juve can continue to appeal and whatnot, but Serie A, FIGC, they will not go back on that because they can't financially. Could you imagine if they had to financially go back on the damages financially done from what happened in 2006, despite Juventus figuring out and finding out and putting it out there for everyone, and they found that all the other teams were doing the exact same thing that Juve was penalized for? They can't do it, and they won't do anything of the such now. This is more criminal case and just backing them. What I do think is Agnelli will have his ban cleared come the end of this and whatnot, and there is financial restitution that could come to the tune of 400 million euros, apparently, is a number that's thrown out there, but nobody really knows on that. I do think his ban will get thrown out, and can he return to Juventus? Absolutely. He'll always be involved in Juventus, in my personal opinion, but I don't think he's going to be at the forefront, president role and whatnot. I think it's going to be behind the scenes. That's just me. Now, we carry on with another court case, and that's Pogba and the extortion case involving his brother. Okay, that has a date of September 15th. This is going to be the first time they face each other since all of this hit the media, right? So there you have it on that. Rabiot on international duty, not expected to start potentially because apparently he's still trying to get into the right fitness. All right, so we'll see what happens there. As far as the Azzurri go, Locatelli and Chiesa slated to start against the mighty North Macedonia on Saturday, their nemesis. So let's see, it's also being tipped off that Spalletti has Chiesa as one of the names listed as a leader for the Azzurri moving forward. Okay, now we've got Cambiaso, a key cog for Allegri, and he has been experimenting with it to move to a four-man backline. So Cambiaso closing out the left side. This is something I know the majority of Juventini want, and that's us moving to a four-man backline, playing in a 4-3-3, getting more players in their natural positions, all right? So this debate is always going to go on. Should we continue with the 3-5-2? Should we switch to the 4-3-3? Well, the report suggests that Max Allegri is definitely looking at it. Would you make the switch? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section, all right? And last, certainly not least, Juventus is slated, as we wait for the actual times to get confirmed for the next set of scheduled matches and whatnot. Juve set to get a lot of the night matches because despite not being in European competitions and whatnot, Juve, everybody's got to face it, we're still the balls, baby, all right? Still a top draw for Serie A. They know it. They can't deny it, all right? It's a shame you treat us like shit because the reality always comes back to this. Juve, one of your top draws, all right? You should respect it, FIGC. But we know the games you play, all right? But that wraps up your news break to today, everybody. Guys, let me know what you think, okay? Miretti, the key solution for Pogba as insurance. Should Fagioli be in that mix? Yildiz, what do you think? And back four, yes or no? Hit me in the comment section, everybody. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you tomorrow with another update. We're going to have a live show probably on Sunday after the Azzurri face North Macedonia, all right? As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine.